if you gave somebody money to build you a house and they took a portion of that and went and bribed all the local politicians and judges and all that to pass regulations to protect them so that when instead of giving you the house that you thought you had paid for, they were now just going to give you a mobile home. Like just move a used mobile home onto your lot, hook up the water and electricity, there you go. Like, and then you have no recourse really because, uh, everybody is been bought off. They're all invested in this contractor not having to give you the house. I mean, if he's able to just take people's money, give whatever they want, and keep the rest of the money, as long as he gives a portion to the right people, you know, like everybody understands that's that would be wrong, right? Like there's nobody's going to argue, well, no, if you give somebody $200,000 to build you a house and they give you a $10,000 trailer and spend $60,000 buying politicians, and then they keep the rest of the money. Okay, that is just wrong. Like there's nobody is going to try to justify that except for maybe some unethical home builders. Uh, but this is kind of pretty much what the United States healthcare system is. You know, in theory, it's we pull our money so that if there's an emergency, some kind of health emergency, we don't have to come up with all the money to pay for that. Like that's why we have insurance. So because everybody is not going to have an health emergency at the same time, it kind of works. It's not a terrible idea in theory, um, but what is actually happening? Like, and most people complain about the U.S. healthcare system. They really kind of ignore this part of it and why it's become so bad. Like this is the reason it is so awful. It's because the healthcare industry is allowed to take portions of the money we give them and they hire lobbyists and they pay politicians speaking fees and they make donations to the political parties and individual politicians and uh, so they're taking the money we give them that is supposed to go towards helping keep us healthy, and they're using that to bribe the system so that they can keep as much of that money as possible. And it's even more insidious than that because that's bad enough. I mean, let's face it, that is awful. Like none of us pretty much can individually pay medical. I mean, that's why so many people go bankrupt due to medical bills. A lot of people who even have insurance go bankrupt because of their medical bills. Um, but so because these people are, it's so expensive. You can't do it alone. You almost have to have some kind of insurance. So the fact that they're bribing the government with our money, they are taking our money to bribe the government, and then beyond that, they, by taking as much of our money as possible, keeping as much of it as possible, that's how they keep their stock prices high. Um, so politicians who are either directly invested in these healthcare companies or just indirectly because they have management, they have their management funds, whatever, I can't think, who gives a, so they give, you know, so there's these investment firms that they give their money to like BlackRock, which is, anyway, but so now the politicians are personally invested in healthcare companies not paying out. So, of course, the regulations they're going to make are going to say they don't have to pay out. I mean, it's, uh, or they can have super high deductibles, which is ridiculous. So you pay a ton of money for insurance, but if you want to use it first, you have to pay a ton of money to the doctor's office or to the hospital, which is another thing. They're using some of the funds that we give them for our health care to buy hospitals, to buy general practitioners. So that um, they get it both ways. Like when we pay the deductible, we're paying them a lot of the times. I mean, it's just so gross, and it really, to me, is the embodiment of capitalism. This system, in some way, some form or other, is pretty much how every industry is run. Uh, Healthcare is far more insidious because, I mean, literally people are dying because they're being denied the healthcare they need, which they are paying for. We are all paying for. We are all putting money and pulling this money into these different companies. And then so you have the board of directors and the CEOs with their huge benefits, uh, which we're paying for. And then they get bonuses by not paying that out. And then, politicians are making money off of it. The whole system is just, it's pure corruption. It's a giant scheme. And yeah, and it's really kind of the embodiment of capitalism. Like, there's not really a product they're selling. What does healthcare companies sell? Our money back to us when we need it. You know, do we really need a board of directors to manage that? Do they really need people getting bonuses with our money that could be going to research cancer or going to help pay for families so somebody's grandma doesn't die of cancer or their kid? Like, there's babies with cancer that, this, it's so sick that, these people are profiting off of selling us back our money, basically. And actually, their goal there is to not even give it to us, not without deductibles. So we have to give them more of our money first, and then they'll maybe give us some back. And but really, you can, in one way or another, pretty much every industry in the country kind of has these same principles. They're run basically the same way. They just have other products. But when you look at the food industry, um, factory farming, the big food companies, which there's like what, 6 of them now, I think, that control the majority of food in the United States. What are they trying to do? Sell us the cheapest product they possibly can get away with for the most amount of money to make the most profit. And if they can, along the way, maybe strip the vitamins out of that food so that they can sell us vitamins back in packages. I know a lot of vitamins come from different ways, but I mean, that is sometimes part of the process, is the whole system is just gross. And do we really need, again, CEOs and boards of directors and investments and speculation as part of our food chain? It makes zero sense. It does not benefit the majority of people in any way. It doesn't make the system better. It doesn't make it run smoother. uh, pretty much once you get above the kind of level of the people who do the logistics of the food chain, like all that is just kind of unnecessary, really. Um, and it goes like you can go from industry to industry, kind of finding those same issues to where, the capitalist innovations sell the cheapest product for the most you can get away with it. Uh, you know, Sell breakable, reusable, or not reusable, easily breakable, um, very wasteful, cheap product at every step of the way. Like milk as much money out of the system as they possibly can. And, so if you really want to know what capitalist innovation is, go to a landfill and you'll see mountains of capitalist innovation, of the junk products, and most of which are completely useless. Um, and it's not like a lot of these things wouldn't exist without capitalism. People would still have invented the computer without capitalism. Capitalism doesn't drive that kind of innovation. In fact, it's the other way around. If somebody at a company invents a product that you would only have to buy one time, there's no way the company is going to put that product out. I mean, they would bury it. The only way new innovations get added is, can we maximize profit by instituting this as part of our product? So if they came out with a battery that never needed recharged, would never die, it just, what company, unless they could charge hundreds of thousands of dollars for it, or find a way to charge a monthly use for using our batteries, why would they put it out? And they won't. There is no incentive, because it's all 100% about maximizing the profit and minimizing the costs. And again, what's the biggest way to minimize the cost? Pay the workers as little as possible. Give them as few benefits as possible. That's why you have companies too making record profits through the pandemic, while they're, cutting employees' hours, laying people off. I mean, it's a mess. But really, I think the health insurance industry, if you really examine the way it operates, is the perfect example of peak American capitalism and corporate control of the government, which is fascism. I mean, that's pretty much what fascism. When the companies run the government, which our corporations do, either directly through bribery, through the politicians owning stocks in these companies, so they're personally invested in their success, as opposed to, um, helping the people at the expense of these companies. And then one other thing that's really kind of a disturbing modern trend with being able to invest in these different companies, uh, is the older generations, especially like the baby boomers, and then maybe the first decade or so of Gen X, are invested in these companies for their retirement. So now we have this older generation who, by the way, aren't letting go of power. And this is one of the big reasons why, these older generations, their retirement is, how good their retirement is completely tied up in these investments. So basically, they need companies to rip off their employees so that the companies can post big profits. They need these companies to churn out, um, worthless products that they, can sell and make as much profit off of as they can. Their vacation to Florida this year kind of hinges on healthcare companies charging us deductibles and not paying out, um, at any any chance they can get away with not paying. um, so yeah, so now you have an entire generation to generation and a half uh, really that needs the exploitation of the younger generation, and that's why pretty much since this got big in the 90s with retirement benefits being tied to stock market and stocks, and the minimum wage hasn't really changed, um, and the benefits haven't really changed, and there's been very strong anti-union sentiment because of course, like it's they got this entire generation, the entire boomer generation, pretty much to buy in. And I don't hate all boomers; they're not all bad. Like there's some of old people are some of my favorite people ever. So don't. I'm not really big on the generational conflict, but a lot of them, they didn't really know what was going on. They weren't paying attention. All they know now is that they need their payouts. They need, those who are trying to survive on more than just Social Security. Uh, anyway, so this video is getting long enough. That is kind of if you really want to start changing people's mind on capitalism, you know, these are good points to make because most people already kind of have an intuitive understanding of it, especially the younger generation. This is kind of the situation capitalism has put us in, not on accident, by design. I mean, it's about maximizing profits, and then in the extreme, that the necessary extreme to maximize profit, of course, is for the companies to take over the government, essentially, which is fascism, 100%. Uh, so, okay, long enough. I hope that all made sense.